India, our country is poised at an interesting moment in time. One of the most populated countries in the world, it has some of the densest cities, constantly posing challenges on the quality of urban life compared with much of the world. With numerous villages now empowered with new opportunities and purchasing power, development has to address many sensitive issues. We have the unique scenario of a demographically young nation making rapid economic progress and becoming increasingly self-reliant in diverse domains of national life. Institute of Indian Interior Designers is celebrating the coming of age of Indian design during the term of 2015-2017 by focusing on the theme Taking Design to Masses.
Institute of Indian Interior Designers, very well known as IIID, was formed in 1972 for the enhancement of profession of interior design in India. It's the only apex body of designers, having 30 chapter centers across the nation, and has the strength and the capacity and capability to form the design policies for this nation of ours.
India's designers are reimagining Indian products by working in many ways within the age-old spirit and tradition of our country. What I find with the members of IIID is that they're taking arts, philosophies and traditions from the past and harmonizing them with the practices and the needs of the present, and of course, the innovations that are needed for the future. Before you make in India, you have to design in India. And what's interesting is that Indian designers today are taking design to the masses.
From chapter to chapter, center to center, every city we have a 2 weeks halt with a common minimum program of like 5 focused agenda to take design to the masses.
In the last episode, we saw the IIID Design Yatra embark upon a great architectural expedition. Driving across the cities of Mumbai, Thane, Nashik and Surat, the Yatra now reaches Bharuch.
For Bharuch, there is no other association except IIID where designers meet on a single platform, and it helped us a lot. We had welcomed Design Yatra from Surat. It was a 6-day Design Yatra in Bharuch.
The theme night in Bharuch saw senior architects share their insights on IIID Design Yatra's theme, Taking Designs to the Masses. Known as the cultural capital of Gujarat, Vadodara is a city that boasts of great architectural heritage. The city embraced the Design Yatra in more ways than one, for the great cause it has taken up and for the potential it holds in making lifestyle changes for the better through meaningful design interventions. As a first of their week-long activity, IIID members took ideas straight to the masses on the streets. An interactive session with senior architects, socialites and government officials saw an equivocal exchange of ideas.
Architects are only focusing, or probably are looked at, the guys who focus only for the niche market. That's a myth. So if we are talking to the masses and making their lives convenient, so what ultimately it happens is that the architect needs to go out of his office, meet the people, understand the requirement and then deliver. At the end of the day, we have a big responsibility on our shoulders, because whatever we do, we are influencing the society. The bad architecture that we do, it influences the society, and the good architecture that we do definitely influences the society.
Design intervention by architects and participating into city development design will really help nationwide, and to build that awareness, this Design Yatra has started.
Paving its way through landmark sites like Naya Mandir and the Railway Staff College, the Yatra finally arrived at the iconic Lakshmi Vilas Palace, and it was none other than Maharaja Samarjeet Singh Ji Gaikwad, who welcomed the members of IIID. In a candid conversation, he not only showered praises on the grand initiative, but also promised to lend his unconditional support.
Fact is that 8,000 of you have got together to pull this off, and I'm sure this will happen. Our country badly needs designing and sensitivity. I think we've got so much of heritage and so much of color in our country, but I think we've just not been able to be sensitive to simple designing elements. And you all are the brand ambassadors who can actually influence.
Designers are often known to be keen observers of their surroundings, a fraternity that leaves an indelible mark on both the personal as well as shared spaces of a country. Veteran architect Mr. Yashwant Mistry reinforced that at the illustrious Deep Ashwani Bhai Patel Centre that he had designed himself.
One of the things which is most important that the outside of the class, you see, and that is why these long wide corridors with an arches and other things which create a very dramatic shadows, you see, and they really feel so very happy about the whole thing, you see, to interact and all that. This is how it has been done. Design has to be done, and that is what our forte is.
IIID members also got a sneak peek at a design created by architect Anand Shirgaonkar. They say that the unprivileged milieu of a nation is a true indicator of its prosperity. IIID members delve deep into this section by becoming their interfaces with civic authorities, all to make a difference in basic living conditions.
We have been here quite a few times, and the idea is to understand their lifestyle. The best is that you have to be a part of their lifestyle, because there is always a feeling of expectation in them. Primary observations that are coming out is that they need a community place, a breathing space, because they live in such a dense environment. So there is no breathing space. What we need here is ideas which are borrowed from their grassroots understanding, and not something which is alien that we just put it on them and it doesn't function the way it functions in urban areas.
I'm happy that IIID is today integrally linked with Vadodara Municipal Corporation in not only city planning and city designing, but also in implementation.
A theme night was last on the line. The evening saw industry experts and citizens alike coming together to celebrate the exemplary campaign called Design Yatra.
The Design Yatra is only the beginning. It is not the end to begin with in Vadodara. So it is a beginning for the chapter. So only when the cars leave a chapter, you understand the potential, your own potential to deliver, because by then only you have learnt as to what could be your contribution for the masses. So once the car leaves, I think we as a committee of each chapter need to sit down and chalk down about what all things we need to do, what could be our wish list, what could be a priority, what can be taken second and third, phase it and then start working.
As Vadodara bid adieu to the Yatra, it was time for Anand, the milk capital of the country, to pick up the threads and welcome the convoy of cars.
IIID people, they have organized a wonderful event, making the people aware of the design and the environment and the cleanliness, and they requested Amul's participation into it. So that's how we readily agreed, because being a small community over here and being Amul as a prominent institute, so we said that why not we actively participate in the event.
We are trying to involve people to promote design amongst them. Anand is the 7th Yatra. It has come today, and we love it. The entire IIID here in Anand is into it. It's for the love of design, for the love of the nation, to bring out a change forever.
The Anand leg of the journey started with an inspiring campaign to ensure cleanliness and hygiene in the city, supported by none other than the illustrious actor Mr. Paresh Rawal. It saw IIID members collect 1.5 tons of daily waste from all around Anand. Taking the mission of Design Yatra further, IIID members organized a discussion that saw a widespread participation by environmentalists, young politicians, industrialists, and civil society members alike. The gospel of inclusive design is what IIID Design Yatra has set out to propagate and eventually attain. And as part of this idea, Mission Clean Anand does exactly that. In collaboration with an NGO, Nivedita Foundation, IIID has taken up the cause of developing indigenous toilets made from used plastic material. The culmination of Design Yatra at Anand was charged with great enthusiasm. As the Yatra leaves Anand with fresh design blueprints and plans for the city, the night came to an end with great hope, determination, and celebrations.
Design is a very important aspect, especially if it is for the masses. Our association with IIID is very old, and it is both for the national level and at the state level. We at SERA appreciate and support the initiative by IIID in taking the design to masses.
I think there was a time, frankly, when design wasn't a big priority in India. Getting people to understand the value of design in India has been a challenge. I think things are getting better. I think there's more awareness today, and increasingly I'm convinced that people are going to see design as integral to the success of a product, which was, for example, something the Italians were always famous for doing, the Scandinavians as well, but not by comparison the English or the Indians.
And the panelists for today's topic are Habib Khan, Jabin Zacharias, Amit Arora, Sudipto Ghosh, and Sanjay Kanvinde.
Welcome to Design Yatra's third episode on establishing design context. If you see design in the post-independence era, immediately after independence, our designers and architects were trying to come to terms with an Indian identity, designing within an Indian context. But with the onslaught of the globalization and the liberalization of the economy, things started changing very fast. So what should be the context that we need to look at in times to come is what we're going to discuss. So Amit, we'll begin with you.
So all these years we have been trying to actually understand the necessity, the needs of modern Indian, and trying to find the Indian context. And India is a vast country
with
a vast economic strata of people with whom we interact and work, vast social diversity, vast aspirational diversities.
Okay.
I don't think there can be one single Indian identity.
Being contextual is more important rather than having an Indian identity, universal Indian identity.
After independence, the whole aspect of modernity in architecture came to India also as a unifying force. The CPWD used it as a way of homogenizing its operations throughout the country. Also, RCC became a cottage industry. Suddenly people were using it in various villages and small towns. Yes, there was a certain need for modernity. And that kind of changed over time in the 70s and 80s. The need to kind of self-reflect and say that there needs to be an Indian identity. And I think the response to how modernity or modernism modified itself in India is a beautiful story as well. In the 90s, there was this another kind of a thing which happened where there was,
exploded out the whole thing.
I don't know, there was, there was facadism. There were architects who were brought in just to design facades.
Yes.
And I think that kind of concern is even more magnified now today.
Given the diversity of the country, I think it's also kind of changing so rapidly that we need to kind of develop our own solutions to the whole thing. So I guess context is very important. I would also not blindly ape the West. It's important that we find our own solutions to these problems. But I would not say that there is like one unique kind of identity to India. I mean, though it's been typed that way after the modern movement.
But tell us one thing, while growing up you would have gone through this experience of the struggle to adopt modernism and then to veer away towards the Indian context. What was your experience about it?
I think we still stuck to modernism as a broad term. But within that, I think one was trying to find solutions which were unique to each place, or whether it was relying on local material, be it brick or stone, or even looking at concrete, because it was labor intensive. Therefore, that became a automatic solution rather than steel. And that brought its own kind of challenges, but I think also a uniqueness because of that.
Because of that, Jabin, the fact that the IIID has taken this as a topic of discussion, I assume that you as the institute are concerned about this topic and the need to be contextual. And how has Design Yatra is going to achieve this, and how do you think are you taking this to masses, making them sensitive to this?
The meaning of the word context, if you look at it, it's like a setting which will help us understand an event or a statement. So a setting is necessary for understanding our designs. And if that setting is not there, probably we will not understand it completely. And if we don't understand something, it means it doesn't make sense. And what doesn't make sense is nonsense. So we are now actually talking about sensible design and actually designs which doesn't make that kind of a sense. So here again, we interacted with designers as well as people. There are people who are very, very influenced by the imagery or images which they see in magazines, or the glimpses they get when they travel world over without understanding what it is. They are just impressed by it. There is an extent to which probably a designer can tell the people about a context, and probably they are not listening also. So that is why this Design Yatra is to completely try and sensitize the public, as well as try and help the designers solve this kind of a problem there.
How do you place all this with newer typologies of buildings that are coming up, newer design paradigms that are evolving by the day?
The word context, just taking on what she was mentioning, I think it's important that we understand it in our own context in context. In terms of buildings where there is no context in traditional Indian architecture, like an airport or a mall, define context for yourself, essential or archetypal.
The archetypal images that you're talking of, so we need to say that a designer should make his own context or define his own context.
I think so. Post 60s, 70s, there was this whole period of symbolism, which was symbolism became a protagonist in architecture. I think that symbolism is kind of empty. It's you can put in jharokas and domes and so on onto a building, but it doesn't have meaning really. And to force context into a building is, I feel, meaningless.
How do you put this in context of let's say, common people, masses, the awareness of the masses.
When we are searching for a context, we always refer to the past. Architecture at that time was predominantly architecture of overpowering. It was the architecture of authority. Everywhere you see the governments were, the buildings were either
always used,
political or
always
religious.
Used, yeah.
And normal people were, they existed, by the way. And the whole architecture for common man is a recent phenomenon worldwide.
I think India had rich regional contexts in which people, common man, existed in beautiful houses. Now, it's not that we want to build our houses for ourselves, it's that we want to build a house to show somebody something we are not even.
That's the paradigm shift that we're talking of in society. Now people are empowered, and the democratic nature of practice.
Yes,
of design.
therefore this critical time when we have to sensitize that empowering shouldn't go against a contextual design vocabulary which this country is in need of.
For me, again, when we talk of context, the most important thing is to reaction to climate, which is unfortunately, I find, missing in most of the modern. And when you talk of, are the masses aware of it? I actually question, are the designers even aware of it?
Because architects in metro cities are responding to the market. In some ways, aspirational is the word, that you want to impress somebody, you want to, and it's never your own, it's always for something else.
The second part I would say contextual is your local available materials and I mean, again, I'm not against technology. I love technology, and technology is the way forward. Modern materials are the way forward. But how they are used? I mean, glass is a beautiful material, but to put it on west side of a building?
Unless the end user, the common people that we're talking of, is sensitized, number one. Number two, the design fraternity themselves get sensitized to this aspect. Things are not going to change.
It's also boiling down to education. So it's how they are kind of being imparted any kind of knowledge.
IIID also recognizes the importance of tying up with students and educational institutions, and therefore wherever this Design Yatra is going to go, we have made it part of our common minimum program that the Yatra are taken to colleges. There should be interaction between the designers and the students on design context, how we respond to the climate, how we respond to local materials, how we try to create an Indianness without being rigidly Indian, how we evolve.
So I think we had a very nice interaction of thoughts, and I'm sure the Design Yatra will get benefited out of this discussion, and the roadmap ahead probably will be defined by whatever we've discussed. Thank you so much.
In the next episode, watch IIID Design Yatra travel to the cities of Rajkot, Ahmedabad and Jaipur.